Think about yesterday. You ate reasonably well. Maybe you even exercised. And yet, somewhere around 3 p.m., your energy crashed. You reached for something sweet or a second coffee. Your focus was gone. You probably blamed the day, but your body was sending you a signal, and nobody ever told you what it meant. These are 7 daily habits that are silently breaking your blood sugar and insulin. Habits so normal you've never once questioned them. Most people do every single one. Habit number 7, never building or protecting your muscle. Most people think insulin resistance is a blood sugar problem. It's actually a muscle problem first. Skeletal muscle is the largest glucose-clearing organ in your body, responsible for approximately 80% of the glucose removed from your bloodstream after every meal. The more functional muscle you carry, the more glucose disappears without insulin ever having to work hard. When you don't train for strength, when your muscle mass quietly declines through years of cardio-only exercise or no exercise at all, your body loses the primary tissue designed to handle glucose. The pancreas compensates by producing more insulin. Blood sugar looks fine, but the demand on insulin is rising steadily. Resistance training 2 to 3 times per week, not to look a certain way, but to build and preserve the tissue that clears glucose, is one of the most underused metabolic interventions available. Muscle is your insulin buffer. Lose it slowly enough and you'll never notice, until habit number 6 makes the situation impossible to ignore. Habit number 6, cooking with seed oils every day. This is not a conversation about calories or fat. It's a conversation about what happens inside your cell membranes. Seed oils, canola, soybean, sunflower, corn, are extremely high in omega-6 polyunsaturated fats, specifically linoleic acid. Unlike saturated fats, which are structurally stable, polyunsaturated fats are chemically fragile. Under heat, the kind involved in every meal you cook, they oxidize and break down into compounds that embed directly into your cell membranes. Once there, oxidized linoleic acid metabolites make cell membranes less fluid and more rigid. Insulin receptors sit in those membranes. When the membrane is compromised, the receptor's ability to respond to insulin degrades. A 2015 study showed that mice fed a diet with similar linoleic acid content to the average modern consumer developed significantly greater insulin resistance than those fed an equivalent amount of saturated fat. The linoleic acid content of human body fat has doubled since 1955, matching the rise of seed oils in the food supply almost exactly. Switching to cooking with butter, ghee, or olive oil removes a daily source of oxidative damage to the very structures that make insulin work. But if what's on your plate is one problem, what's missing from it is habit number 5. Habit number 5, being chronically magnesium deficient. Magnesium is a cofactor for over 300 enzymatic reactions in the human body. 2 of the most critical ones are insulin receptor phosphorylation, the process by which insulin unlocks a cell, and glucose transporter activation, the mechanism that actually moves glucose from blood into tissue. When magnesium is low, both steps become less efficient. The insulin signal weakens before it's even completed. Research shows that in magnesium-deficient cells, insulin-dependent glucose uptake drops by approximately 50% compared to cells with adequate magnesium, without any other variable changing. A large dietary study found that people in the highest quartile of magnesium intake had a 71% lower likelihood of elevated HOMA-IR than those in the lowest quartile. The problem is that serum magnesium, the standard blood test, stays normal until deficiency is severe because the body pulls magnesium from bone and tissue to maintain serum levels. Most people are functionally deficient without knowing it. Dark leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, and magnesium glycinate address this directly. And while a mineral deficiency is invisible, habit number 4 is something you can measure by the hour, and most people fail it every single day. Habit number 4, sitting for hours without breaking it up. You can exercise every morning and still develop insulin resistance from the remaining hours of your day. This is not speculation. It is now well established in physiology. When skeletal muscle contracts, even gently, it triggers GLUT4 translocation, the movement of glucose transporters to the surface of muscle cells. This process happens entirely independently of insulin. But when muscle is inactive for an extended period, that transporter disappears back inside the cell. A 2016 study in Scientific Reports found that uninterrupted sitting for just a few hours suppressed contraction-mediated glucose uptake pathways in muscle tissue, even in people who exercised regularly. Breaking sitting every 20 to 30 minutes with 2 minutes of movement restored this pathway almost entirely. A meta-analysis confirmed that regular activity breaks reduced post-meal glucose and insulin levels by over 30% compared to continuous sitting. 1 hour of morning exercise does not undo 8 hours of continuous sitting. What matters is the interruption pattern, not just the total. Standing, walking to the kitchen, doing a set of body weight squats at your desk. That's the mechanism. And while staying still is one silent driver, habit number 3 is something happening to you all night without your awareness. Habit number 3, breathing through your mouth while you sleep. This is the one nobody talks about. Your nose is not just a breathing organ, it is a metabolic one. When you breathe through your nose, it produces nitric oxide, a molecule that dilates blood vessels and directly facilitates glucose delivery to muscle tissue. Nasal breathing also keeps carbon dioxide levels balanced, maintaining blood pH in the range where insulin signaling functions optimally. Mouth breathing does the opposite. It reduces nitric oxide. It shifts carbon dioxide out too quickly, creating a subtle chemical stress signal. The sympathetic nervous system activates. Cortisol rises, and cortisol signals the liver to release stored glucose before you've eaten anything. People who breathe through their mouths during sleep spend hours in this low-grade stress state, waking with elevated fasting glucose and disrupted insulin response before the day has even started. Nasal breathing during sleep also significantly reduces the risk of obstructive sleep apnea, a condition independently associated with severe insulin resistance. Taping the mouth lightly shut at night sounds strange. People who try it consistently report lower morning blood sugar within days. But if your nights are working against you, habit number 2 is making your days worse than you realize. Habit number 2, eating at random, unpredictable times. Your pancreas has a clock. Every organ in your body runs on a circadian rhythm, an internal 24-hour timing system that anticipates when food is coming, prepares insulin secretion in advance, and synchronizes glucose clearance with your activity patterns. When you eat at consistent, predictable times, this system runs efficiently. Insulin is released at the right moment. Glucose is cleared promptly. The demand on your pancreas is low. When you eat at random times, lunch at 11 a.m. one day, 2 p.m. the next, skipping meals, eating late, snacking unpredictably, the pancreatic clock loses its synchronization. Insulin secretion becomes reactive rather than anticipatory. The first phase insulin response, the rapid early release that blunts the initial glucose spike, weakens. What should be a smooth curve becomes a spike. Research on circadian disruption and metabolism shows that even people eating identical food in identical quantities develop worse glucose tolerance and higher fasting insulin when they eat at irregular times versus consistent ones. You don't need to eat at the exact minute every day, but eating within the same 2-hour window for each meal consistently gives your pancreatic clock something to work with. And none of these 6 habits matter as much as number 1. Because it's the reason most people have no idea any of this is happening. Habit number 1, never checking your fasting insulin. Your doctor tests fasting glucose and HbA1c. Both are blood sugar measurements. Useful, but they only tell you what your blood sugar is. They tell you nothing about what your insulin is doing to maintain that number. For years, sometimes over a decade, blood sugar can look completely normal while your insulin works 4 or 5 times harder than it should. The dam is holding, but the pressure behind it is enormous. None of that appears on a standard panel. Two people. Both have a fasting glucose of 90. Both look healthy on paper. But person 1 has a fasting insulin of 6, optimal. Person 2 has a fasting insulin of 24, significantly elevated. Person 2 has had compensated insulin resistance for years. Their doctor told both of them everything looks fine. Combining fasting insulin with fasting glucose in a formula called HOMA-IR gives you a score that directly measures insulin resistance right now. A score below 1.5 is insulin sensitive. Above 2.5 is resistant. HOMA-IR rises years before fasting glucose shows any change, making it one of the most sensitive early markers available. Ask your doctor to add fasting insulin to your next blood panel, or get it privately, 15 to 30 pounds in most of Europe. That one number tells you more than any standard test ever has. Every one of these 7 habits is reversible, but you have to catch it early. Pick just one today and start there. If this opened your eyes, hit subscribe and share. More coming soon.